Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Amy Campbell, and we're in the midst of World Cup action now.
Yeah, we have a couple of great matches already. I think we're in for a really exciting tournament if this is any indicator.
We're fresh off one at the moment. Uruguay bested Egypt on a goal in the 90th minute, 1-0. Egypt wasn't expected to win or even draw, but they hung tough almost the entire game, and they did it without star striker Mo Salah, who is still dealing with a shoulder injury suffered in the Champions League final. However, they said Salah was available, so my question is, why didn't he play at all? There were opportunities for him to do what he does and get a quick strike goal, and that could have changed Egypt's fortunes for the entire tournament.
Yeah, this is a tough call, but I understand why they wanted to play it safe. And he only recently just got back to training. The shoulder's still bothering him. We saw this video of a fan going to take a selfie and grabbing him around the shoulder, and he still kind of winced here, like he's still wincing, like the shoulder is still hurting. Obviously going to be tentative there, and this was not a match that they were supposed to win anyway. The upcoming matches against Russia and Saudi Arabia are going to be the important ones, so I understand playing it safe and keeping your star for those must-win ones.
You play to win the game. I mean, right? This is the World Cup we're talking about. Yeah. And I don't doubt that he's still dealing with the injury, but there is a difference between a shoulder injury and a leg injury, and I don't think a couple of days is going to make that much of a difference. They had the opportunities in this game, and they could have moved on, essentially, and they didn't even get the draw. Plus, you're going in, you know that scoring differential, goal differential, is the #1 tiebreaker. Spain just got rid of their coach for daring to consider another job with the World Cup coming on. It just seems odd to me in a tournament of this magnitude to be playing it so conservatively.
Well, and watching him on the bench watch Uruguay score that goal in the 89th minute there, just at the very last second, that stung. Like, you just felt like, okay, was that the right call? Like, that's a really disappointing, like, I think we all felt that moment.
And again, it's his game, right, to come in and get it on that one play. It's not necessarily for him controlling the entirety of the game, and they had those glimpses. We'll have more World Cup coverage in just a bit as our Luis Miguel Echegaray sits down with German legend Bastian Schweinsteiger. But first, I think the quote is, if you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, it's yours. Could that apply to Kyrie Irving and LeBron James? Kyrie was asked about the possibility of playing with LeBron once again.
Kyrie, if there was an opportunity to have you reunited with LeBron James, is that something you'd be open to or against?
I mean, like I said, in this business, I've kind of experienced it all, and I've seen a lot, so you know, we'll see what management decides.
A classic Kyrie response right there. Do you really think this is a possibility? Both Kyrie and LeBron in Boston together?
The Celtics situation is excellent, right? And they could perhaps facilitate a trade for LeBron if he decides to opt in and get traded to a destination of his choice. But to me, it's not about Kyrie and LeBron. What feels odder would be LeBron in a Boston Celtics uniform. After having to go through the KG and Pierce and Allen teams and then, you know, playing them recently the last couple of years, he once told Lee Jenkins, our own Lee Jenkins, that if his mom was wearing a Celtics uniform, he would break her face. That's the actual quote.
Those are serious
you know,
words.
So that, to me, just wouldn't sit right. Watching LeBron James in a Celtics uniform, even if it was the best possible opportunity, because I can't sit here and tell you with a straight face they wouldn't be an awesome team.
I don't think that LeBron's going to end up in Boston, but what I do think is we've seen him mend fences before, Dan Gilbert being the obvious one, but LeBron can mend fences with people. I think it's Kyrie that wanted to get away from him, and he would. Yeah?
Well, maybe Kyrie wanted to get away from the overall situation, but I think the point in Boston is Danny Ainge has not been hesitant to be cutthroat in these decisions.
Yes.
So I don't think he really cares what Kyrie thinks.
Right, and I think that, yeah, Kyrie would be the one that wouldn't want to be with LeBron. And in the back of my mind, I just wonder, is that the reason that Kyrie's not committing? Like, it's like this LeBron cloud that's out there. Is that the reason that Kyrie's not verbally committing to Boston? That's
I think
what my gut
it's
says.
more Kyrie's overall, I'll be kind, quirkiness.
Right.
You know, as it comes to his situation and what his true desires are.
The great philosopher Kyrie Irving. Well, he's not the only one being mysterious. Lakers owner Jeannie Buss tweeted this cryptic little message: "Do not ever underestimate ... Nothing else to say." Okay, what's the craziest thing that the Lakers could pull off here?
Well, the reason the Lakers are in this conversation is not just because of their prestige, it's because of their flexibility. So they could go the route and bring in 2 max contract guys and build around their young guys. But they could also bring in 2 max contract guys and try and flip the young guys. Like, you know, the rap beef rookies. You know, you take Kuzma and Lonzo Ball and you move them for something else, in addition to signing LeBron James and Paul George, or LeBron James and Chris Paul. And maybe you see what San Antonio is willing to take for Kawhi Leonard. So that's the appeal of the Lakers, is the team they have now could be so wildly different from the team they have come mid-July.
Yeah, they're sitting in a great situation to make some really interesting moves. I can't wait to see what it is they're going to do. I think if we want to get even more outrageous, Phil Jackson's coming back to coach this crazy team.
They ain't signing LeBron if that's the case. LeBron ain't playing for Phil, I can tell you that much.
No.
Major League Baseball attendance is down fairly significantly. According to a Wall Street Journal article, crowds are off 6.6% from this time last year and down 8.6% overall. For context, if those numbers hold, the drop-off would be greater than any season since 1995, the year post-strike. While the weather is definitely a factor, even Commissioner Rob Manfred admitted the league is, quote, concerned that there's something to it more than weather. What do you think the problem is?
Well, as a Marlins fan, I feel like this has been the story every single year. There's like 8 people showing up to Marlins games and they give you like a ticket for $5 and you get a hot dog and a beer too. So this to me doesn't feel like news, but I guess as the league in general, yeah, it is becoming a bigger problem. I think part of it is the weather. I think that's a very real thing. But if you look across baseball right now, the competition is not super strong. You have the top teams at the very top and then the bottom teams are at the very bottom. There's a big disparity there between the haves and the have-nots.
I'll go with 3 strikes, how this could be an issue for them, and they go in order of how damaging it is individually for baseball. Number 1, spectator sports could be suffering because the television product, the streaming product, whatever, is great. Number 2, you mentioned the lack of competitive teams. There are more teams below the 400 winning percentage mark right now than there were the last 3 seasons combined. It's tied. But I think what could be the most damaging is the one we talk about all the time, if younger people are losing interest. Because there's always been this allure of the ballpark. But you don't have an issue like this without a myriad of reasons why it might be the case.
He played in the NBA for 13 seasons, and now he's a new assistant coach at Cal State Northridge. Mo Williams, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so last month you became a coach for the Matadors men's basketball team. Congratulations, coaching under your former coach at Alabama, Mark Gottfried. This is a coaching staff that's been described as bananas. What are some goals you hope to accomplish with this team heading into this year?
Well, for me, stepping into the college world, is a different life for me. But looking forward to the challenge, looking forward to the opportunity. But, to come in with under Coach Gottfried and Jim Herrick and a guy like Jeff Dunlap that has so many years of experience in college sports, it's an area where I want to grow in and be successful and bring a lot of the things that I've learned over the course of my basketball playing career. Couldn't have picked a better group to help and give my expertise to, but most importantly, to learn from them going forward how, I need to tackle situations and do things like that.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot to offer. I bet those guys are really excited for that entire staff. So we want to talk to you about LeBron. Obviously, his next destination, one of the biggest conversations happening in sports right now. Everywhere you look, people are talking about it. So you were on that roster the summer before he took his talents to South Beach famously. How much did his pending decision impact the team during that year?
Well, obviously, it's going to impact the team. I mean, especially guys that's probably more so closer to him than not. But for the most part, it's going to affect you because it's the best player on your team. Just take outside of being, considered the best player in the world, but the best player on your team. Anytime you lose a guy like that, you're going to be not as good as you was the year before. How much worse depends on the magnitude of that player that's possibly leaving. And in his case, he does a lot for that ball club, and that'll be a big blow for an organization. And to turn around in 1 year, 2 years, you have guys over there that feel like they don't have that many years left to waste, or they're trying to be in a good situation to win, you kind of feel those moments because it means a lot to lose a guy like that if that was to happen.
How much do you guys hear the talk about LeBron's supporting cast not being good enough? Is that something that got to you, something that got to this year's squad, you think?
Well, it never gotten to me. Obviously I'm always, had self-motivation. I always had the ability to motivate myself. And, I don't really listen to outsiders and things like that. But at the end of the day, a guy being so good that can do so many things, it takes a special type of individual to play with him because he's so great and he does so many things in a lot of different areas where, it could be some of the things that you do well also, but he does everything so much better. So you have to adjust to those type of situations to be successful with him.
After he left Cleveland the first time, he became really the most hated player in the league. We saw fans burning his jersey, and now since he's been back, he's delivered the city a championship. Do you think the reaction would be different if he were to leave now?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I think he's done, so much over and beyond for the city of Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. I think he's done a lot. I think he's going to continue to do that even wherever his destination is next year. He's going to continue to support that area because that's where he's from. That's all he knows. That's what made him who he is. But I've grown to be, 35 years old. I look at a lot of things a lot different than I did when I was 25 years old. So, my take on this decision is totally different, emotionally and physically. At this point in my life, I see things a lot different. And, you kind of move on with your life and things changes. And he could, be in a good mode where he want to, finish his career in Cleveland, or he may well say he want to finish with somewhere else. So, that decision is ultimately his. And when your family gets involved, you have kids, I think, if you're a fan, you're a fan. If you're not, you're not. If you're a fan, you support whatever.
Sometimes it seems like maybe people forget that you guys are people too, and this is your job and really your whole life. How many things go into it, and just how important and really difficult is it to go through the process of possibly switching teams?
Well, it's not difficult. You have a job to do, so at the end of the day, where, what your job is and what your role, what's being expected of you. And if things was to change where, you're being traded or you sign somewhere as a free agent, you got to understand that that's what comes with the job, and get prepared and get your mind right and be able to perform when you get to your next destination. So I'm pretty sure he's going to make a good decision, a calculated decision.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Mo Williams, congrats again on the coaching role with Cal State Northridge. We wish you the best of luck there with the Matadors, and thanks so much for giving us your time and your insight into all of this complicated, interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Conor McGregor was in court yesterday, albeit for about 2 minutes total, for his incident at UFC 224 when he was seen throwing metal gates at a bus, damaging it and injuring fighters on the bus. For more, we welcome in SI legal analyst Michael McCann. Michael, McGregor wants a plea deal. Would that allow him to completely avoid jail time?
Most likely, Rob. And I think if his lawyers are talking plea deal, a sticking point for them will be no jail time for McGregor. Whether that means he has to pay a fine or do community service or other things, we'll see. But I would imagine it's crucial for the lawyers that he avoid serving any time in jail. I would also add there's a complexity here in that Conor McGregor may have immigration issues in terms of admissibility into the United States, coming back in. When one pleads guilty to a crime, it can complicate their immigration status. So that could be another issue that his attorneys are mindful of.
Now, there's also the UFC angle of this. McGregor apparently plans to meet with Dana White, in the coming days. How much could the UFC help or hurt his situation?
Well, I think in terms of the prosecution, they wouldn't play any kind of significant role in that. This is really now between the state and McGregor and prosecutors and his lawyers. That's the universe of people that are going to decide whether or not he pleads guilty to a crime, whether or not he goes to trial. So in that regard, they wouldn't play a significant role, the UFC. But the UFC could play a really big role in terms of whether there's an aftermath to this outcome, and that whether there are civil lawsuits, whether there are settlements. In that regard, they could be quite influential. And of course, they could be influential just in general in terms of his career. So in terms of the criminal prosecution, they wouldn't play really a meaningful role. They may tell him, look, cut a plea deal and let's get beyond this. But they're really a significant player in terms of the civil law aspects.
Michael, in the NFL, Reggie Bush was recently awarded $12.5 million for suing the St. Louis Rams after that season-ending knee injury when he slipped on some concrete after returning a punt when he ran out of bounds at a game there in St. Louis. What kind of precedent could this set, and might we see more players sue?
Possibly. I think it's important that he decided to go to trial, that there was no settlement, that he decided to go prove to jurors that the concrete that extended beyond the field shouldn't have been there and that it caused his injury. And of course, it took a long time for this case to play out. He was patient with it, and ultimately it proved to be a good decision. We'll see whether it leads to other lawsuits. I think there are some unique aspects to this case that might not be occurring in other situations in terms of this concrete that apparently isn't common among NFL stadiums. There's also the fact that the jury here consisted of St. Louis residents who may not have been all that happy about the Rams leaving for Los Angeles. I don't know if that played any role in the decision, but that is sort of a relevant factor. And of course, the fact that he is now retired. If a player was in the middle of his career or her career, would they want to spend this kind of time and energy on a case? I'm not sure. So we'll see. But it certainly is a win for player safety, a win for those who believe that stadiums and arenas and ballparks ought to be safer for those who play on them.
That's SI legal analyst Michael McCann. Michael, as always, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
As the World Cup kicks off, Germany is one of the obvious contenders. I am extremely lucky to have next to me World Cup champion 2014 and fourth most capped player for the German side, Bastian Schweinsteiger. Bastian, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
Germany comes into this World Cup as one of the favorites to win it all, to win the whole competition. Bastian, what makes this team so special?
I think the quality of all 23 players are very high. So the level in the training session is very high. Of course, you have like players like Manuel Neuer, who is for me the key player in that team, and of course also the experience of the coach. You know, he knows exactly how to win a World Cup. So that is a advantage.
So we know about the strengths of Germany. Tell me about the weaknesses. Is there anything in this squad that you think maybe could be better worked for?
You know, sometimes you have a feeling that the game is they already have the feeling it's over. They won the game, they're leading 1-0. So sometimes when they are kind of losing track, you know, that could be a chance for the opponents to score a goal. So, and we're always trying to play with the ball. We are we love ball possession. So, if we lose the ball, that is not so ideal for our game.
So Joachim Low has made 14 changes from the 2014 squad that you were a part of. Do you think that this is the right roster that came in? What do you think about the roster that's coming into Russia?
Yes, I think, first of all, his job is not easy. To have so many players to choose, it's not easy to pick 23 players. So he had to also think about which team fits maybe the best to each other. You're staying in Russia for 5, 6, 7 weeks, hopefully the longest. So it's not easy. You have to find also their way, and he's a very smart coach, and he probably had an idea behind the changes. Do
you think Leroy Sané should have gone to the World Cup?
Personally, I liked the kid. He played an amazing season in Manchester City, so I feel with him. But as I said before, it's not easy. We have a Leon Goretzka, for example, who is moving to Bayern Munich now, also a very good player, or other players. So it's not easy to choose for Jogi Löw, but Leroy Sané is a great player.
Let's switch to another team, Spain. As you know, Julen Lopetegui has left the squad, fired after obviously joining Real Madrid. Do you think that after deciding to make this decision, do you agree with it? Do you think that from the national team perspective, how would you have felt if Joachim Löw did the same thing?
Of course, Joachim Löw, we were working with him since 12 years, so it's kind of different. But for Spain, for the national team, it's not a problem at all, because these players know what to do on the field, off the field. They are so experienced, they have class, they know what to do. So Fernando Herrera, for example, he's experienced as well. It's easy to be coach of the Spanish national team in my eyes.
Let's talk about your club right now, Chicago Fire, who finds themselves just outside the playoff race in the Eastern Conference with a tough summer schedule. What do you need to do to get the results over the stretch, do you think?
Unfortunately, we had some games where we lost points in the last 10 minutes. We made some easy mistakes, gave points away, gave goals away. And you can see then the difference in the standings. You miss 7, 8 points, and that makes a big difference, So I just hope that we find a way to minimize our errors, our mistakes in our game a little bit, and then we will for sure have a playoff spot.
One of the things I really remember so much is just you winning that World Cup in 2014. What are some of the best memories, not just from winning it, but the tournament itself?
I mean, we had a great tournament also in our country, 2006,
right,
which was amazing to be part in that kind of tournament. But of course, 2014, to lift finally the trophy, to hold it in the hands, which we were chasing for almost 8 years, So to hold it finally, lift it up in a Maracana Stadium, that was an amazing feeling.
Bastian Schweinsteiger, it's such a great honor to have you here on the show. Thank you so much. And now, for more on the World Cup, here's soccer guru and my SITV Planet Football co-host Grant Wall in the beautiful Red Square, talking about Russia's dominating performance against Saudi Arabia.
Day one of World Cup 2018 is in the books. I'm Grant Wall here in Moscow's Red Square, and the big takeaway is Russia 5, Saudi Arabia 0 to start this World Cup. The home fans will be extremely happy tonight. Russia played well, just put this game away by halftime and poured it on in the second half. The 3 points are huge for a Russian team that wants to advance from this Group A, but also the goal difference is huge for Russia as well. You're talking about a +5 now, which sets them up pretty well if they can get a tie potentially against Egypt in this group. The other teams are Uruguay. So you're looking at a situation here where the Russians will be totally satisfied. That's it for me from here in Red Square. Come back to SI.com every day during the tournament for this.
It's thuggish behavior from Conor McGregor. It's unacceptable in every way.
Talk to my Jet fans, friends. You're like, oh, the refs suck.
LeBron had to trade away his entire team to get them elevated.
How do you think Judge and Stanton compared to you and Manny?
It was scary to come forward, and it still is.
The common denominator is still there, and that's Jason Garrett.
Deflategate. Well, Deflategate, of course, was cheating.
In the history of the 1-8 seeds upset here, I'm taking Kareem down.
It is heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
I'm impressed that he didn't run into the cubicle.
The Eagles have officially put a ring on it as the champs don jewelry featuring 127 diamonds on the bezel, representing the combined jersey numbers of the players involved in the Philly special, and an underdog mask inscribed on the inside of the ring. So what do you think?
Oh, I loved reading that the leadership was saying, let's go with something more elegant here. And the players were like, no, we want bling. We want as flashy as possible. And that's what they got. And it should be. It's a Super Bowl ring, right? Like, it's not like your casual ring for a Tuesday afternoon. You want people to see that thing coming from a mile away.
I don't care about jewelry or rings or shininess or any of that stuff. The pettiness, I'm sort of down for.
Yes.
Because someone has to go in and make sure sure it's clear that there are 283 diamonds in the Patriots ring because it's 28-3, or that there's so many diamonds on the Philly bezel because of the Philly special. Because it's not like I would see that ring and go, oh look, yeah.
Oh yes, I can count them all from here. Yeah, somebody's sitting there like counting them out and making sure that they all perfectly fit on there. Like that was somebody's job. I love that they got the underdog mask on there though. That's awesome.
It's crazy how intricate I guess you can be.
I mean, if this was something that I won, I would do the exact same thing.
I would probably pawn it, I think, is what I would do.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what is that ring worth? You really wear it. People still know you're the Super Bowl champ, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could pawn the ring.
I'm sure it's worth way more than I even want to think about.
We'll be back same time, same place, Monday. In the meantime, check out at SI Now Live on Twitter. Have a great weekend.